You're watching Cobb County's Government Access Channel, TV 23.
Hi, welcome to the Library Show. I'm Julia. We have a very special back-to-school episode planned for you today. You'll hear about some great student resources, you'll hear about some books that will help your child transition from summertime to school time, and you'll get to see some new faces on the show, and I'm really excited that they're on board. But kicking things off is our expert on safety from the Cobb County Police Department, Sergeant Dana Pierce. Sergeant Pierce, thanks for being on the show.
Hello, Julie.
So, it's August. Parents across the county are getting their school supplies ready. They've got their shopping list. They're getting their backpacks and buying lunch boxes and school clothes and all of that. But there's something else that we should be keeping in mind, right? And that's safety. So can you tell us what kind of safety things should we be remembering as we're sending our kids back to school?
Yeah, in addition, Julie, to all those things that their child would need for school, we certainly, as from the law enforcement perspective, need to let parents know what we as parents need to think about when it comes to the safety of our children. One of the things that probably happens every day with some child throughout the county is somebody boards a bus. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things we want to talk about is what a parent needs to teach the child about bus safety. The first thing we know that a parent normally would take a child down to the bus stop. Right. Stay with them, do that. Okay. Be patient. Allow an adult to be in that area where there's a bunch of children that may be gathering, because if there is something that happens, it's going to be that person who's going to witness it and provide that information to police.
It's a good tip.
What they say also is for the children, kind of step 3 or 4 paces away from the curb.
Okay.
That way, when the bus pulls up, they're not right on the child when the bus stops, and that potentially puts a child in a dangerous situation. Yeah. So just remind your child to take 3 or 4 paces away from the curb.
Stay out of the road.
Stay out of the road, absolutely. And as we know, right now what's happening, we are having school buses with the stop sign cameras on them.
Right.
So we need to kind of forewarn the public that if they do proceed through a school bus that has the sign out that is stopped, that potentially they could receive that citation.
Mm-hmm. That's so important.
Absolutely. So not only safety for the child and their thought, but also for the traveling public. We have our special operations people who are out in those school zones in the morning and in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. They're either on 4 wheels or 2 wheels, and they're writing tickets all the time. So we would hope that people would respect the school zone and the speed limits, which are normally 25 miles an hour when school's in session. Mm-hmm. So we need the public to be cognizant of that. Certainly when the child boards the bus, we want them to get seated, stay seated throughout the bus ride. Of course, the bus drivers, I think, are challenged every day. With kids going, in and out of the seats and forward and backwards. And we just want to remind parents to tell their kids to make sure that they stay in that seat and be safe. One of the things that we failed to really mention is providing information to authorities should their child get into an emergency type of scenario.
Okay.
So the best way to do that is to have some type of emergency contact information, maybe to put it in their book bag.
Oh, good tip.
That could be the child's name, address, telephone number, and emergency contact. We've even known parents to put these things in their kids' shoes.
Oh.
So anything that is going to be in case of emergency that's going to make that parent or make that authority aware of that situation. So those are just a few of the safety tips that we see at the bus stop. And again, throughout the day, when a child gets to school, if they have a situation that occurs, to go to that either principal, assistant principal, or that counselor with that information. Certainly, what we're seeing is peer pressure, and certainly things that are happening in school that potentially put that child at risk or children at risk. And so we want them to properly report it to authorities at the school, and then let those school authorities make that contact to do what they need to do.
Absolutely. Those are such good tips. I should be taking notes right now. This is great. So I really like the shoe thing. I'm definitely going to do that with my own child. That's a good idea. So you talked a lot about what to do maybe before school with the bus, and we'll have more on bus safety later from the Cobb County school system. You talked a lot about what to do during school. What about after school? What are some good things that we can remember for after school, and how young is too young to leave a kid at home by themselves?
Yeah, let's talk about that first.
Yeah.
We talk about deprivation of a minor. That is a state law. And it's considered any child under the age of 8 should not be left alone.
Okay.
So people need to realize that. And when we talk about DFACs and these different government entities that come out and check on the children when they're at home, or if there is a case where that needs to be brought up to authorities, when we come upon a residence or an apartment complex or something that we see those children that seem to be under that age of 8 and they're out alone, that's going to be potentially a deprivation of a minor. So from 9 to 12, depending on the maturity of the child, will depend on whether or not that child can begin to babysit.
Okay.
And maturity is the key here. And when the parent leaves the child, they want to do that for a short period of time. And that short period of time is defined as anything less than 2 hours. And really what a parent is doing is they're beginning to instill in that child that sense of responsibility. So when we talk about when should a child start babysitting and when should a parent start kind of letting out that leash, so to say, it's anywhere in that range from 9 to 12. But again, a lot of that depends on the maturity of that child.
You really have to know your kid, right?
Absolutely.
All right, great. So what about, let me see here, stranger danger. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Let's talk a moment about stranger danger. That phrase, that term has been out there in the public venue for a long time. But what we're seeing today is the sensitivity of children, that when you talk about stranger danger, it's really not what the person looks like potentially makes them dangerous, it's what they do. A lot of times, even when we go do our little officer-friendly programs and whatnot, sometimes you'll see that child kind of shy away from law enforcement, anybody in an official capacity. And we always take that additional step to reach out to them and comfort them and let them know that public safety are their friends. But when you're talking about just the general public and somebody being in that immediate area, again, it's not what that person looks like, it's what they may potentially do that makes them dangerous. So that's kind of why we want to step away from the stranger danger. But certainly take the time as a parent, not during the heat of the battle, not during the heat of the situation that maybe the child may be aware of, and we're talking about maybe a potential kidnapping or child molestation, but take the time away from the incident itself, and that's where you want to do your education with your child. You want to educate them, help them to understand what they need to do in case of an emergency. Kind of falls back to having that emergency contact in their shoe or putting it in their book bag. So they really need to have a plan of attack. Everything from first aid, what do they do inside the house if there is a possibility of somebody being injured, all the way to dealing with people knocking at the front door. In law enforcement, 96% of burglaries occur during the day. And why? It's because we're not at home. So a lot of times when you see these burglaries occur, it could be that suspect, that criminal element who knocks on the door, and if there's no response to the door, then that is when they may in fact indeed kick in the door. So we're talking about, from the child perspective, being home alone, have that emergency contact information at hand, and also have that 911 dialed on the phone ready to push in case that person comes in. But always respond from the inside of the residence to somebody outside. And I'm not talking about opening the door to them. I'm talking about from inside, maybe yelling outside to that person who's knocking at the door. Just a moment, my mom or dad are on their way, just to let them know that there's somebody inside the house, and hopefully that will avert any type of burglary type situation.
That's a good tip. I didn't think about that. All right, so you've got a lot more great ideas on keeping kids safe. We've got to take a quick break, but will you hang around? Can we hear some more?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thanks. So stay tuned. We've got more with Sergeant Pierce after this.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
All right, we're back with the Library Show with more from Sergeant Dana Pierce from the Cobb County Police Department. Thanks for hanging around.
You're welcome.
All right, so tell us a little bit more about safety. Let's talk a little bit about 911.
911 is really important. That is our lifeline to the public and their lifeline to us. When we talk about getting them that emergency response, be it firefighters or a police officer or EMS, 911 is our lifeline to that person. We just want people to know, and the very basics of what we've all learned in school, the W's, the who, the what, the where, the when, why, maybe how, and if anybody's injured. That is the information that we want that caller to pass on to our 911 center. And then leave it up to the dispatcher at that moment in conversation. And a lot of times the law enforcement are updated as these things are happening. So the dispatcher's in my ear, in my Motorola radio, and certainly getting the information from the caller about what they need to do. If we're talking about an adult, it could be anything from administering first aid. If we're talking about a child, it's how we can contact your parent or what is going on that we can pass on information to law enforcement or firefighters on their way there.
So it's so important for the kids to know the contact information for their parents, definitely.
Absolutely, and that's as we mentioned earlier, is what the parents should be going through is kind of giving them an idea of how to respond to 911 should they need to use it.
Great. All right. So you've given us a lot of good tips. You can find a lot of that on our website. We'll post the video here on our website as well, along with some of the tips that Sergeant Pierce has given us. But there are other ways that people can stay in touch with Cobb Police, right? Some news.
Absolutely.
That kind of
Not only Cobb Police, but the Cobb County government.
Yes.
You can go on the Cobb County government website. You can go under Department of Public Safety. And under that umbrella, you have police, fire, and EMS. We have from each of our 5 precincts what is called a PINS alert. A PENS is Police Email Notification System. So when there's something going on in a specific precinct, then we can actually let that subscriber know, because you have to go online and sign up for that, but let that person know what's happening out there when we're talking about crime or anything going on in emergency-wise. And the only way that we deal with people, I guess, in an emergency type of situation, other than utilizing the media on a daily basis, is through Nixle. Nixle is, you have to sign up for it, and basically just sign up for Nixle. We'll give out alerts when we decide or we term that the public needs to know. If we have a crash in an area, or if we have a gas leak that's going to require traffic deviation from work to home or vice versa, then we're going to put that information out through Nixle.
And staying in touch is so important, so definitely sign up for those alerts. So thank you so much for being here today. I've learned so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we've got more of the Library Show after this.
You can sit with me, imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read.
So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child.
So let's join hands, book people unite. Unearth hidden passion. Come on, we'll have a good time. One book could be the first element, helps to change a life. People unite.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
We're back with more of the Library Show and more of our Back to School episode. You heard Sergeant Pierce talk a lot about bus safety in our last segments, but we've got a video to show you as well from our friends at the Cobb County Schools. Let's take a look.
Each year, our children are put at risk by drivers who ignore bus stop arms and warning lights. In Cobb County alone, more than 1,000 drivers ignore them every day. The Cobb Police Department and Cobb Schools have partnered with Operation Stop Arm to educate drivers about the new law to save lives.
Tragically, a young child was killed at a bus stop by a passing car in 2009.
While we were being interviewed by the news crew, a driver ran through the stop arm of the bus.
We had just installed new stop arm cameras on some of our buses and were able to hand the photo over to law enforcement. And now, with the new law, hopefully we will reduce violations of the stop arm law and have additional evidence to cite violators.
Drivers who pass a school bus with a stop arm activated can receive up to a $1,000 fine from the court and get 6 points tacked onto their driver's history. It is a serious offense.
So next time you're in a hurry and you're tempted to pass a stopped school bus,
Welcome back to the show. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Donna.
It's August, and for a lot of you, that means back to school. So we've chosen our favorite back to school books to get you ready. My first book is Mom, It's My First Day of Kindergarten by Huan Yum. A lot of kids get nervous when they have to go back to school, especially if they've never been to school before. But in this book, it's not the little boy who's nervous about school, it's his mom who's nervous for him. and the little boy has to reassure his mom that he is ready to go to kindergarten. Whether you're starting kindergarten this season or if you've been to school a few years, you're going to love reading this book.
My first book that I've chosen is Hooray for Pre-K. This book is by Ellen B. Cincy. This book introduces your preschooler to fun and adventures of the first days of school and the many activities of playing, singing, painting, and reading, and much, much more. I've chosen this book because it really introduces your child to a new adventure.
My next book is Follow the Line to School by Laura Lundquist. This is a really interesting book that introduces you to all the places you'll see at your school, from the classroom to the cafeteria to the art and music rooms, and my personal favorite, the media center. You might like to take this book home and compare your classroom to the classroom presented in the book. I bet you can find a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. You can also literally follow the line through the book from beginning to end. It's a little bit like a maze, and I think if you get this book, you're going to want to follow the line through it more than once.
The next book that I've chosen is Welcome to Kindergarten. This book talks about a 5-year-old that has fears of starting kindergarten and how everything is just much too big. But after a visit of his new classroom, he is enlightened by the fact that there are many things that he can do and exploring all the adventures of being a 5-year-old in a new kindergarten class.
My last book is It's My School by Sally Grinley. This tells the story of Tom, who's going back to school, and his little sister, Alice, who's starting school for the first time. Tom is not happy that Alice is going to be attending his school. When I was little, I went to school with my younger brother and my younger sister, and we always had a great time. So do you think Tom and Alice will be able to have fun at school together? You'll have to read this book to find out.
The next book that I've chosen is How Do Dinosaurs Go to School? Well, dinosaurs are silly, we all know that. This book has many, many dinosaurs inside that are doing many silly things. This teaches your child behavior and how to act on the first day and many days to come for school.
We hope you've enjoyed the back to school books we brought to share with you today. Stay tuned after the break to learn more back to school resources.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back to the Library Show. My name is Cindy, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Nicole. We both work at the Central Library in downtown Marietta. Another thing that we have in common is we're both moms, and we have children. And so we know what it's like to go back to school, and a lot of times your children will need homework help. So we're going to tell you about some online resources today that'll help you help your child with their homework throughout the year. These resources are online, available through the e-library collection through the library's website, and so they're available 24/7, which is a real help. So, Nicole, why don't you get started with, I know you have some recommendations on some of the online resources.
Yes, Cindy. Most parents recognize that feeling they get when their child comes up to them frantically on a Thursday evening and explain they have a research assignment due early Friday morning. And for those occasions, parents are really going to appreciate student resources in context. That's an online resource that's going to provide several different reference items for students with one search. It's sort of like a one-stop shopping searching experience for students.
Like that.
One subject that some students are going to undertake in the fall is the Civil War. So I did an example search on the Civil War on student resources in context. And I found literally thousands of reference items based on that subject in the form of dictionaries, encyclopedias, and almanacs, and many more. And in addition, I found audio files, video files, scholarly articles, photographs, all different types of media. So a student is able to create an accurate and wonderful research assignment.
That's really great. And this is for what age group? Is this for elementary on up through high school?
Yes, because you get so many different reference items based on a search, I think it would be appropriate for elementary, middle, and high school.
Great.
So Student Resources and Context is going to be a great online resource for parents. The second one I wanted to mention was Learning Library Express. And that is an online resource that has several tutorials and study guides for students. Let's say a student is having difficulty in a subject. In our home is math. So my son and I went on Learning Library Express, and we found the age level that he wanted to accomplish. You can choose between K through 12th grade, and we chose 10th grade and looked into math. Now there's several different subjects. You could do science, spelling, vocabulary, many different subjects. And he ended up picking a course called Algebra in 15 Minutes. And that allows you to have a daily lesson in algebra and learn a fairly difficult concept every day in a short amount of time. I also wanted to mention that Learning Library Express had practice tests in the subject areas I mentioned before, and also with the PSAT, SAT, and some college entrance exams.
Wow, that's a great resource. I think I'd probably benefit from the math refresher course.
Absolutely, yes. So
Great.
Parents can get on Learning Library Express now to brush up on different subjects before school starts in the fall.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes,
wonderful.
so what do you have?
Yes, I've got a couple of recommendations. For older students, there's the Gale Virtual Reference Library, and it's like having your own personal set of encyclopedias and specialized reference books. And it covers a wide range of subjects. You can get U.S. history, science, literature, the social sciences. So it's a wide range of subjects, and it has also specialized reference books that are focused on a particular subject. For example, if your child needs to write a paper on something like capital punishment, there's a whole reference book there, and it will look at all sides of that issue, which is really good for that if they're writing a paper. And then it also has literary reference books that will cover poetry or short stories, so it's great for literature as well. And if they're researching countries, there's a book in there, Countries of the World, which is a great reference book for that, covers everything about that country, the people, the political system, and that kind of thing. So that's one that I recommend. And then the second one is the Dictionary of Literary Biography. And there's over 1,600 critical essays on literary figures, the most important literary figures. And it covers a wide range of genres, and it also covers you know, a really long time period as well. So they got a lot of good information about American authors as well as British authors. So those are the two that I recommend. They're good for high school students as well as college students.
Wow, that sounds fabulous. I hope you've enjoyed the online resources that Cindy and I have shared with you today, and we'll be back.
Hey guys, thanks for coming.
Are we in trouble?
No, you're not in trouble. I just want to set some ground rules.
Like what?
Well, remember last week when you hit Vinny in the head with the shovel?
I do not recall that.
Of course not. Well, it was pretty graphic. Too graphic for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
You know, I gotta make this up to you. This is Vinny's watch, and I want you to have it. You deserve it.
Thank you. That's really not necessary.
No, come here.
Thank you so much for watching today. We hope you have a great school year, a safe school year, and join us next month. Thank you so much.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally.
I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls. But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on a sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
Kids will spend 15 minutes watching online videos like this one.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes twice a day. They have the time.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all working with United Way for a million little reasons. The kids of our communities, to ensure their academic success all the way to graduation day. You see, it takes about 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a kid becoming one or the other could be a professional athlete, or it could be you. Studies showed the earlier we get to kids, the better their chances. So become a United Way volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, and make a difference in the life of a child, for the life of that child.
Give. Advocate.
Volunteer. Live United. Join your favorite NFL players. Take the pledge. Go to unitedway.org.